learn a craft or a language from their parents, I learned really bad jokes. That was a joke from my dad, so. Moving right along, we're going to stay here in Singapore, a company based here in the Lion City, HayStakt. Give it up for Joel, everybody. Thank you.
Hi, thanks. Good evening, everyone. I'm Joel. I run HayStakt, and we give businesses economies of scale through a crowd pricing platform. Now, before I get into how it works, allow me to present the problem. This is Calvin and Leon. They're designers, and they've got a great idea. They want to make the world's skinniest wallet. And because they're a small business, they can do it faster, better, and maybe even smarter. But like everyone else, they run into the same two problems when they try to bring the product to market. How many units should they make? And related to that, how do they price their products? Having a small market, they run the risk of underproduction. With high unit costs, you have higher prices, which then shrinks your potential market size. And you guessed it, this is a vicious cycle. And it goes on, and there could be potentially no more market. On the other hand, if they overproduce, they run the risk of having overstock, and then having an overall loss on their project. Not a very good situation to be in. But we said, slow down a minute. What if we didn't have to make those decisions first? What if I could actually know how many units I was going to produce, factor in the economies of scale before I committed to production and pricing? What if I could actually take these decisions and put it in the hands of the purchasers themselves? So that's how we came up with the concept called crowd pricing. How it works is quite simple. The more people buy, the more everyone saves. Customers love it, and makers love it because that incentivizes their initial networks to spread it to their networks, bringing the price down. Even better still, what this system really does is it allows you to achieve maximum economies of scale before deciding on your production quantity and pricing. Now, to combat the late adopter syndrome, we've come up with a system called the early adopter bonus. So the earlier you buy, the more you save as an individual. When anyone places a pre-order, they're basically grabbing a spot on that green line. So back to the skinny wallet. This was an actual project that went live a month ago. Their minimum order goal was 50 units. They doubled that and hit their maximum of 100 units. They couldn't go beyond that because their factory, that was their factory limit. And yeah, they basically sold out. We had to turn away orders. Now, they're a successful business, right? They're a real business. So they actually list the product on our marketplace alongside their other ready-to-make goods. What we've actually created here is an ecosystem that provides an alternative to retail, which is an industry that basically takes 50% markups on every stage of the distribution channel. So by giving everyone economies of scale, what you're going to see is a world with faster, better, and cheaper products. Everyone wins. And it's worked tremendously well. We raised $10,000 in our first month. We just launched slightly more than a month ago. And our business model, we take a 5% commission on every successful project. So a conservative estimate of a 10% service market at an average project size of $5,000, we're on track to hit 2.5 million in 3 years. Now that might not seem like much, but this is basically only the figures for the creative commodity industry. Crowd pricing can basically work on anything out there that has the concept of overheads and per unit cost. And one of our next avenues is actually looking into large-scale events. So how are we going to do this? We're going to grow pack the supply side. We're going to go to trade shows, do referrals, do partnerships. We're basically totally focused on bringing in more and more projects. The demand side is pretty much taken care of because the referral system is ingrained in the business model. It's been working tremendously well. So where HayStakt really stands is that we bring in the innovation and communality spirit that you see in Kickstarter projects and match it with the price competitiveness of Groupon. We think it makes a lot of sense because we're based here in Southeast Asia where people are price sensitive, or in other words, kiasu. So we're first to market. We're going to translate that to user base advantage, and eventually we're going to have stored value that will increase switching costs in the future. So who is HayStakt? It's myself and my partner Melvin. I founded and developed the marketplace working with over 100 makers in Asia, making sure that we had a product that they loved. And Melvin built the crowd pricing platform in the last 3 months. We're looking to raise 500K to help with marketing in Singapore, and eventually expanding to Thailand and dominating Southeast Asia. So thank you. You can find us just outside Route 4 or on Texas.
What drove you to do this?
Well, we actually, just to give everyone a bit of a backstory, we actually started out as a marketplace that served makers in Asia. What happened was that we saw a lot of people quitting their normal jobs, our friends. It was a phenomenon that was happening globally with the makers movement, and people are basically more ready to make stuff than ever before. So we started the marketplace. It was growing well, but it wasn't growing fast enough. We asked our audience what their problems were. The problems were pricing and production. So we came up with crowd pricing.
So what was some of the initial customer development, like just walk us through, that got you to this model? You know what I mean? Like each of the businesses that you tested this with, what's the uptake?
Right, well, it was kind of a two-sided thing. So on one hand, customers weren't really buying because a lot of design products seemed to be really expensive. On the other hand, we went in and asked makers why were their products so expensive. So we actually realized that we were producing at a very small scale. Singapore is a perfect example of that. We have a very small domestic market. So and sometimes design is a cultural good. So you can't export that. So on their end, they weren't purposely trying to price their products at a high point so that it's like designer or exclusive. So we basically figured that, hey, we could actually solve this problem.
As this is a platform and marketplace, I can imagine, all kinds of products will come into your platform. So for a consumer and a user standpoint, how do you drive, the consumer to come to your website? Because it's almost like a pasar malam, right? So.
Okay, so the standard route for how a consumer should enter our site, right, is basically kind of like Kickstarter. What happens is that you realize that when you ever support stuff on Kickstarter, it's not because you go to their homepage and then you find a project you like. Rather, it's that you see a project, a cool thing being shared on Facebook. You go to that specific project and you order it. It's never through the platform's homepage itself. So similarly, the way we approach this is that we are the platform, we are backstage. The makers should be kind of the ones doing the initial seed trafficking so that they are first people coming. Of course, we do make our site friendly enough so that there will be some cross-feeding here and there. For example, once I'm done supporting a project, I might go and check out what's on the rest of the HayStakt. So with regards to quality, on our front page, we tend to publicize the more successful ones.
Just to add on to that, basically, the referral system has worked so well in bringing new people in from social channels that 70% of the conversions are actually coming in from referrals.
This kind of reminds me of Quirky.com, but it's kind of, except Quirky is curated, right? And the whole kind of returns, I'm sure, it's kind of handled in terms of the quality, the QC. I mean, the challenges here is, if there's problems with the products, right? Like, who do they go talk to? Who do they complain to, right? Because that backfire. I mean, when you don't control quality, that's going to be a challenge.
We actually do screen every project that comes in. However, we don't curate based on taste. We just make sure that the project's actually viable. It's not a scam, things like that. So we have a set of guidelines that helps us do that. In terms of whether the product actually takes off or not, the nice thing is that the crowds actually return it. If there are problems, we do take the approach of saying that we're not accountable in that sense. We do direct them to the maker, and we facilitate that communication process.
I spent the past couple of minutes trying to figure out how do you make a business like this bigger? Because it's a transactional business. You're selling products in the marketplace, you're getting your 5%. But when people do their first run production, 100 units, 200 units, like you said, because that's their first run. So what are your thoughts on, I know you guys mentioned that, maybe we'll go into another category, like putting together events, did you say? Like events and trade shows, for example. But within this category itself, how do you make this bigger?
Yeah, I think within this, thanks for the question. Within this category itself, what we're realizing is that, and maybe in response to your earlier question as well, our existing pool of makers were actually coming up with new products every season or every half year. It's something that retail does all the time. I think the market that we're actually functioning in here is actually the larger retail market, as opposed to maybe something that Kickstarter size.
Like micro retail of sorts. But your projections still, like when you kind of math it out, like there's a lot of pain for 2.5 million in 3 years, and you kind of know it as well. Yeah, I would spend some time thinking how you can just how to get that bigger. There's a lot of potential here, just making it bigger.
Choosing a category, fashion.
Right.
Actually, it's definitely something we're considering. Right now, we look at designers graduating from Thailand and Indonesia. There are 14,000 designers graduating each year. They have facilities to produce stuff at a cheap price. Yeah, but thanks.
Actually, fashion is, from a girl's standpoint, it's not good because, you're talking about volume. I don't want to be wearing something that, every street, every turn of the corner, I see somebody wear the same dress as me, So I'm not sure about fashion, but something else, But I think choosing a category is one of the direction that you want to consider. The other thing is that because if people are going to buy, it's a transactional, portal. And if you don't give any form of, so-called confidence, in terms of the product quality, it's not going to cut it. Because consumers have choices today. So, why would they want to come to your site other than a cheaper in price? But again, the cheaper in price is only dependent if there is a crowd, there is volume, right? If there's no volume, I'm going to pay, probably about the same price, if not higher, in other site. So you want to consider about the quality aspect. How do you give that kind of assurance?
We do recognize your point. We think it makes perfect sense. Like trying to basically improve site experience and improve the quality that we give to customers is always paramount, and we're always trying to improve it. I wouldn't say it's the best way. We can make it better. Now, one of the reasons why we think that this is our site user experience that's a lot better than traditional, like just go to the shop and buy something, right? Is because from the start we've always had this idea that when you go to HayStakt to buy something, you're not just buying a thing, you're kind of buying a story or a journey. So you realize that throughout our site, right, we do things like whenever I order, when I'm waiting for my order to come in 2 months, I don't just sit down and wait. What the maker does is that he publishes updates. He says, okay, I've just started production, this is a shot of factory. I'm really excited to be doing this. Thanks for all your support. Here's shots of my products being made. And so what we actually give is that we let the consumer take part in this whole production process. We want to basically want to bring making closer to the customer. So I believe that's something that's very different from just buying from a normal shop, where you never ever see the hands that make the product.
Transactional entertainment.
Terrific. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Joel and Kelvin from HayStakt.